Welcome, dear listener. I'm Kat Davis,
And I'm Erin Riley.
and this is Surviving Service. To set some context for today's episode, when Erin and I recorded this episode, it was the Friday before Inauguration Day. Erin had not yet started her new job. I was going through quite a lot with the organization that I'm working in that was feeling really heavy and hard to manage. And we were both feeling a certain level of what we start to call moop about the world ahead and the level of uncertainty we were feeling towards it. And in the coming weeks, this level of uncertainty and funk and frankly weight has just amplified. I want to acknowledge that there are some very heavy and uncertain things happening in this world right now. And also that as of recording this intro, Erin and I are in the thick of a very uncertain, very wild time to be working in public service and in nonprofits. With that being said, we're going to transition to releasing these episodes bi-weekly, so you'll get to hear from us every other week. And in the meantime, we would really love to continue connecting with you. We invite you to share your stories, tell us how you're doing. We are all in this moment together trying to figure out what comes next and how we respond to now. And we know it's a particularly challenging time to think of sharing your story out publicly, so I want to acknowledge that and say that if you do end up sharing a story with us, you are welcome to share whatever level of identifying aspects of it that make you comfortable. You can be vague, you can be specific, you can sign your name like a Dear Abby listener, frustrated front desk worker at local hospital or something, I don't know. You can just say, signed Kat from Oregon. You don't have to identify anything that you're not comfortable with, but just know that we're here to listen to your stories. And also, I think there's some real power in sharing stories out with others, especially in a time that feels very heavy and very uncertain. Finding that solidarity through stories is one of the most powerful tools we have to keep going. If you want to share a story with us, you can send it to survivingservicepod@gmail.com or connect with us on Instagram at surviving_service. We're excited to curate some listener episodes, and also we're excited to bring on other people to interview who are excited to share their stories. We're not necessarily looking for experts. We're not looking for celebrities. We're just looking to connect with real people on the ground doing the work. So if that sounds like you, please reach out, please connect. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy. You'll get to hear a little bit how we transform my moop into some energy, into some lightness, which I think we could all use right now. So hang in there. We got this. Now let's dive in. It is the Friday before Inauguration Day, so that's exciting. I think that there's like a funk in the world, a funk in the atmosphere. Yeah. So there's like a lot of moop going around, a lot of like mip and angst. But also some great parking lot laughs, some great commiserating.
Yeah.
Acceptance of like, oh, this is just messy. So anyways,
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't been to work yet, so
you're still in a work-free world. But even so, I think it's interesting that you are like also, you've also got experiencing some of the moop. How's your spark today, considering all of this context and your impending employment?
How is my spark? Well, if you had caught me earlier in the day, I would have been like not great, feeling a little meh, but did some self-care and feel a little meh. I don't know how to quantify it better than I was, but still not like I'm ready to go. I'm feeling empowered to empower other people.
That's okay. I don't think you need to be ready to empower other people on a Friday afternoon. You know what I mean? Like, That's like some real Tuesday vibes. We're not there right now. We're not there
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I was feeling very tired and a little bit nervous
Mm,
this morning because I'm like, "Oh my gosh, how am I gonna go into this weekend? There's, much to do," and then also found out there's another thing to do, which is the Women's March, which will tell you I don't know if I'm gonna do that.
yeah.
But I was just feeling like, "Oh, no, I don't feel rested or rejuvenated," but then I went in and I had, some microneedling and some acupuncture done, and then she, like, did something. It felt like a very lightly pressured kind of, like, massage gun thing,
Hmm.
and she did it on the top all over the top of my head, on my chest, on my knees, and I'll tell you, whatever it was really did get me a little bit more regulated.
Huh.
For
That's
sure.
cool.
I should have asked what it was, but I was just like, "Thanks so much. I'm gonna go now because I don't feel like we're chatty today." 'Cause
Mm.
we were not chatty today, so, yeah, um, felt a little more regulated, had some food, and now it's that, like, "Ooh, tired" feeling. I don't know. I mean, did you know that yawning can be a sign of a regulated or that you're getting your system regulated?
Can you say more about that? That's interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
so basically, like, if you're trying to kinda calm down, like, say you're pretty dysregulated, and I'll just say it in the sense of, like, having a lot of anxiety, having a lot of, like, internal I always used to say it felt a little bit like internal squeezing, like,
mm,
and ringing with, like, anxiety,
mhm.
and I could feel my shoulders were up and everything like that. So, when I was able
As I
to
adjust my
yeah,
posture.
right. Which when I started to let myself relax, and you can, like, take deep breaths, you just try to regulate yourself, right? Like, you just
Mhm, mhm.
whatever you need to do. So, when you get into a space that feels much more calm, you'll tend to start yawning because
That
you
makes
will
sense.
be in, like, a relaxed state. Your system is I mean, like, it was overstimulated, and so
Yeah,
now you're coming down, you're letting
yeah.
yourself relax. So,
Cozy.
yawning can be, like, a really good sign, and in fact, at one point in time, my therapist, Jen, the therapist, um,
Friend of the pod, Jen's a
we, like, had
therapist.
to we do these VU exercises, which are I'll tell you this, they're interesting to me. So, you take a deep breath, and then you
Ooh.
actually, you open your mouth, and you go, "Voo."
Mhm.
Um, you just do VUs, right? And you let it
You view it
all the
up.
way out until you feel like you have to do another breath again.
Hmm.
Mine have, it's changed over the years. When we
Hmm.
first started it, I could really feel it, like, down in my chest, like and now it's not so much like that anymore. It's a little bit
Mm.
more heady now, but,
Hmm.
um, yeah, she's always just like, "Take a deep breath, do your VU, let it all the way out." And then when you have to take the breath again, you take a deep breath, you do it again, and then, usually we would start talking and then I'd start yawning.
Mm.
Like, "There you go.
Mm. Interesting.
There it is."
Yeah. I've heard of and this is something I use to be helpful in regulating myself, is the deep belly breath, like breathing just really deep into your abdomen with the idea that if you were being chased by a dinosaur or whatever, then you wouldn't have been able to like take a deep breath. So when your
Mhm.
body's reacting in like a fight or flight way, by taking that deep breath into your belly and like holding it, it signals to your body that you're no longer being chased by the dinosaur. So it's like okay to like lower your frequency a little bit. That helps me when I like in short spurts. I think it's a band-aid more than anything, but just for like if you find yourself in that, I call it like high frequency where you're like like in my brain. Sorry, listener. Like the just like really buzzing high energy, but not in a fun way kind of space. that can help me bring it back
That
down.
is, I mean, I have learned over the years now. That's just your system. It's deregulated. It's
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And as we are hearing now, it feels different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think I had a regulated system until I started my anxiety meds, and then I got to feel what
Mm,
stillness was like, and I was like, "Oh, wow.
I know.
Oh, wow. This is
Yeah.
amazing."
I wish I could
Um,
have that feeling again.
mm.
It feels like it's never good. I don't know. I'm having a medication issue, so
Mm-mm.
it feels the way
Bleh.
it feels. But I would say that it's not necessarily a band-aid, it's just the coping
Yeah.
tool to get you through
Yeah.
to whatever else you kind of need. Of course, sometimes people that's all they need, other people need that, and then, for me, I go and see somebody once a week and kind
Yeah.
of
There's
take
all sorts of tools out there.
a little bit more self-care. I mean, I would say that whatever thing that she was using, right,
Hmm.
that kind of it felt like frequent tapping, and that also
Hmm.
can regulate you.
Yeah. Yeah. Tapping
Um,
can be really nice.
come back to
Yeah.
in yourself, and ground yourself a
Hmm.
little bit more, so it just felt like that, like a mechanical, like, able to do that, plus she just did it, like she, like, did the whole top of my head, which felt really nice.
Oh, that does feel
Oh
nice.
gosh, thank you.
Yeah. Head massages, like a really good like salon person or barber that just
Mm,
is really good at the head massage while they're washing your hair. That's so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How are you feeling? How's your spark today?
It's been a hard week for my spark. I've been dealing with some pretty bad fatigue in the evenings, starting at like 5, where it feels like there's just a whole, like I'm just swimming in cement and could I could sleep. I could
Mm,
easily sleep. And then I know if I sleep, I'm going to wake up at like midnight and be
mm,
awake and that will be bad. So, that's been pretty much an all week experience. So that's kind of frustrating. It's been a healthy reminder that even though I have some good medication management stuff, that if I'm not, I just, that I still am dealing with my chronic illness. And um, yeah, I have this like constant game I play where I'm like, oh, is it MS or is it
mm,
this other thing I need to worry about? Is it
mm.
MS or is it just like I didn't sleep well enough? Is it
I
MS or
see.
is it a UTI? It's usually MS. Just all the symptoms suck. Where it's like, oh,
Mm,
geez. And so it's just been a week that's been a reminder, which is probably good, a healthy reminder. I mean, not good. I'm not pleased, but I am. It's good to remind myself that I need to slow down. I need to listen to my body when it's telling me that I need to be done. Even though it's deeply frustrating because I have so many things I want to do. And it's been a moop week. Like, we're in the thick of budget cuts right now at my organization, and there's no fat left to trim on this boy. So we are
mhm,
having very hard conversations, and that sucks. And uh, there was also like a big public situation where we got a lot of angry emails, and I'm still getting
e
them. So
e
it's just hard, like, where a part of the system that is very challenging and frustrating and makes things divisive is that when people work in a big bureaucracy that is not funded well, as doing meaningful work, people tend to be very overstretched thin and have not very much capacity, which means that this system, this bureaucracy makes a lot of choices and doesn't really have the capacity within the humans that are, making those choices to tell people what's going on or like share, context or data, or basically it all leads to a lack of transparency. And when there's not that transparency, it doesn't really matter what decision you're making, no matter how good it is or how good
mm,
it could be. If people are feeling like there's something shady going on or they don't understand the context, and so they're going to jump to the worst conclusions because you don't have that trust built, it just gets in the way of important things happening or meaningful change happening or anything. So that's what I've been dealing with in a really vague way.
yeah,
Our organization tried to do a really awesome move that would help out with the fires down in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess I can just share too. This is like a very, it's something school districts across the country are responding to. The Los Angeles Unified School District put out a call for 30,000 air purifiers.
Mm.
And the school district where I worked decided they wanted to donate about 2,000. And just because of the lack of context or transparency or communication about where those were coming from and what the air quality is like in our actual schools and what we're doing about it, there is just a lot of frustration and backlash um, about like not making sure that our kids here have clean air. And
Mm.
that's a hard it's a hard conversation to be having. So,
Right.
yeah. Because my heart is really, I mean, obviously, just like everybody, my heart's really hurting for the Los Angeles community. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
tough.
So, yeah.
Big week.
Meh. Yeah. So that's where my spark's at. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like, uh, I've been trying all week to think about how do we keep our energy up? Or maybe it's not even keeping the energy up, but like, how do I not bring other people down into my moop? Because I can feel myself talking in a lot of spaces and realizing I'm like bringing others into my moop. Um, and so like I don't know. What does that look like to like
Well,
be real
one
about where your sparks are at and then not,
yeah.
yeah.
Ooh, can we do some trickle down therapy then? Yeah, let me just tell you what I learned this week
Yeah.
because I said the same thing
Mm.
about um, and we were talking about, like, I I am a very to a fault, I'm a very open person,
Same.
right? And so, one, I think that is really great. I wanna embrace that instead of what is usually comes top of mind of, "Ugh, I'm too sensitive," and that's always
Mhm.
a bad thing. Right, like, that's been the narrative a lot, but I think that helps me be more empathetic, that helps me do the work that I do, but also, getting to the point of where I'm going here is, um, what does that look like in the workspace? And, what I'm trying to do is be discerning who gets what
Ooh.
because because our energy levels are just right, um, where they're at, and so,
And they're
um
contagious, for better or for worse.
yeah, I would say in the sense of, like, I don't wanna bring anybody down and to my moop, but sometimes you just gotta go through it.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have to go through it, let's be honest.
I don't know. I can disassociate pretty well.
Healthily, you should, like, go through and feel your feelings, and
Mm,
so, it's just a matter of, like luckily, I do see somebody once a week, so that's really helpful to know that. Like,
mm.
I'm gonna see somebody, and we're gonna talk about things that probably not necessarily gonna talk about with many other people.
You have a you have a place to put some of what you're holding each week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and then, like, I think this comes down to kind of having community too, right? Like, you wanna surround yourself with people who are gonna hold space.
Mhm.
I have those spaces. I know those people who I can do that with, and so maybe it makes it a little bit easier in, like, a professional setting, so I'm not, like,
Mhm.
taking that around, I suppose. But I also wanna say, you know, sometimes like, you're a human being, and as I have heard before, it is not realistic to be on all the time and be happy and be positive and constantly be the cheerleader and constantly like, that's pretty toxic.
Yeah.
That in itself
Yeah.
is pretty toxic. So, I think, it's realistic to have a balance. So that's not me giving you any advice of how to not feel like that, but, um,
It's
more
validating
trying to
though.
say, "Don't isolate yourself," because hopefully there are spaces and places for you to go. I love like I have a I have a group text where we do a lot of voice notes,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
And that has been shared by one of the the members of our group text of, "I just need to put something in the void,
Yeah.
and you
Oh,
can
I
listen
love
to
that.
it or not." But just knowing that that's the space that, that we can like, the whole point of it, and we have each reminded one another of this point, is that, we're here to hold space for one another. The nice thing about voice notes is that you can take the time to listen
Mhm.
when you're ready.
Yeah.
We already have that understanding that sometimes we're not gonna say anything, sometimes
Mm.
we're gonna go back and forth,
Mhm.
sometimes we might go away for a little bit, but we're always there, and that's always a space where we can talk about whatever we need to talk about.
I love that. I think talking is really helpful. And I think, too, the other part of it that I'm feeling is amongst my colleagues who are all going through different kinds of moop and
Mm,
angst in carrying a lot themselves. In the office, a lot of my time is actually spent like checking in on them and talking about where they're at with stuff and what's working, what's not working. And this week in particular, had the kind of days where I would just be happening to walking out to my car with one of my, coworkers, and she'd be like in tears, overwhelmed with like how
mhm,
she was not able to carry the things that she's trying to carry.
mhm,
And I could just be there to be like, God, that sucks. Like, God, this
mm,
is so much. And I hope that they listen to you and you tell them this. And I'm proud of you for telling them this and all these things. And then we can usually laugh about it, as you do. We joke about how sometimes our working space is a mixture between like Portlandia and Parks and Rec, depending on like how goofy the scenario
mhm,
is. And I think for me this week, and maybe the question I'm exploring internally with my spark is, what happens when you are carrying so much that you can, do the laughing about and commiserating with others, but then that next thing gets added to it, and then it's like not funny anymore. And then it's just
mm,
sucks. Like, I think the budget cuts conversation has taken out some of the like hilariousness of the dumpster fire, because I'm like, this sucks. Like, this just sucks. Like, this sucks
mm,
that this is set up this way. It sucks that the public education funding system is this way. It sucks that like, we're doing meaningful work, that none of it is not a priority. All of it is meaningful. And I think being able to just sit with like, gosh, this sucks, can be shitty and hard. But then it's really hard to sorry, what I was trying to get at is that when you're in a space with other people who are going through the same stuff, that's and you can find each other and be like there for each other. But what I've found, and what I was sort of referring to even with sharing my moop or like not wanting to bring people down, is when I'm trying to socialize outside of
mhm.
that space and being like, I'm so happy to get to be here. And we were talking about being couch friends and stuff. And I was like, gosh, I'm so like, that's all I want is a couch friend to just like lay with me and not have
We explain
to.
what a couch friend is,
Yeah, let's talk about couch friends.
and
Um,
then we'll circle back around.
yeah.
That's right, but I think it's a good idea to
Sorry, I'm
explain.
gonna I'm gonna open my NA non-alcoholic IPA because that's what kind of
Okay,
Friday I'm having.
yeah.
Just
So a
as you
couch
hear this in the
friend is
background.
somebody who, who is a person that you can just be with, and they can come over to your house or you go over to their house, and you literally can just lay on the couch, and you don't really have to have much conversation, and you both are understanding that, like, yeah, that that's not needed, but you still want the connection. And so I we were talking today off mic, obviously, because there was a video, and I was telling Kat that I'm like, "Dang, both my couch like, the 2 people that I know for sure who are my couch friends do not live in Idaho anymore. They
Mhm.
both live in Oregon, which is Kat is one and then my other friend. And so it's really hard, but also this video was explaining like couch friends are so good. They help regulate your system and they're good for your mental health and like just builds community and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but it's hard. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is
like
hard.
that's really hard. So, just wanted to explain what a couch friend was, and then Kat, how does that tie in?
It does tie in because when I was thinking about, accidentally sharing my sad spark with people, that's because I feel like in those interactive social spaces, maybe I'm expected to be on in some kind of way, or like I'm supposed to be contributing in a way that's meaningful and helpful. And I'm like, nah, I just want a couch friend to come be like, a garbage gal with me, just lay in our filth, lay in our, cozy clothes, not have the expectation necessarily of lifting each other up or bringing each other down, but just getting to like spend time and human connection with each other, and more than likely something beautiful comes out of it. Usually there's laughter, usually there's some terrible show that we're watching. There's always going to be junk food.
Oh yeah, I was thinking
Always.
calzone,
Snacks. Snacks. Snacks for days.
something
Uh,
cheesy.
when you visited, I mean, this isn't obviously an advertisement, but people will know. I never really like explored Trader Joe's before much until
Mm,
like you visited, and then like
mm.
we went to one, and I was like, snacks.
It's
There's one that
snacks
opened
on
like
snacks,
snacks on snacks. They're like snack professionals. And so one opened way too close to my house. And I'm like, no, this is so bad for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, I think that's what that feeling of having somebody who's just there to vibe, where you don't even have to like get into your moop and you don't have to like try and be a cheerleader. You can just be like, yo, I'm here in this present moment with you. And like, we're just like experiencing now together, bro. Like, I don't know. It sounds really, really new agey, but it's nice.
No, I mean, I think it's not new agey. I think it's just science. It's facts on facts
It's
on
just
facts. But
science.
um I think you brought up a good point about, there's expectations at work. And that's kind of where I was at with my last
Mhm.
job is that I'm the professional. I have to be the cheerleader and I have to be the one who is always on for volunteers. And as much as some of my volunteers, we were close, and there were times when we talked and it would have been deemed pretty unprofessional. And I thought, I think later, like, oh crap, this is, I shouldn't be this person with them. But
Yeah.
I also try to look at it in another lens of I got a lot of compliments
Mhm.
about being able to expand our volunteer team. We didn't have a
Mm.
very big volunteer team, but we definitely had people from across the state. And I don't know, that had to do, I think, a lot with like just being able to be open and honest and have conversations and
And
ask
just being
questions.
real with
And
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And my real authentic self at that point was like, yeah, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's nice
and
for
like,
people to like not for you to not sugarcoat it or also like try to dance around what they're seeing with their eyeballs as like
right,
something that seems off. Yeah. They're like, be real with
right.
me.
Let's be like, yeah, let's just be real, especially in the
Yeah.
work that I do. It's nonpartisan, but I will say that a lot of volunteers, a lot of partners that we work with, could be deemed not in the same political party as the reigning
Mhm.
majority here, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh,
I love how
like
careful
we
you're
have
feeling like you need to be, and I totally understand it.
like we have to, there's like a time where you really just want to call it and say this is hard.
Yeah.
Like we already know what we're going to be walking up into.
Yeah.
But we have to show strength in numbers and we need to be unified in some way, right? Like
Right.
we have to have hope. That was a big thing that we talked about, and that's still what I talk about. Like, we can do this, we have hope. And yeah, there are times when it's like there's got to be at least one person in these spaces who has to be that person who's like, yep,
Yeah.
we're, you know, we're
Yeah.
on, I'm gonna lift your spirits. This is okay. Nothing, it's not hopeless. It's not all doom and gloom. Let's try to look at a positive. I mean, we even have to say we even have to reframe it.
Mhm.
I have heard we've had to reframe, um, "Oh, these lawmakers, let's most likely are against the things that we are asking for, which is, to make sure that people have access to healthcare." Surprise, surprise.
Mhm.
But it's more or less that we say, "Oh, well, we've got a lot of new lawmakers, so they
Mhm.
just don't know."
Yeah.
They just don't know, and,
Mhm.
they're expected to know everything, right?
Yeah.
And they honestly, they're humans.
Yeah. They're all
Sometimes you don't
humans.
wanna I mean, they're all humans,
That's
we are
that's
all human.
the most beautiful and frustrating thing about the quote unquote system is that it's actually just made up of humans that are all filled with their own lives and stories. And sometimes you're like, "Human, I see you. You are human. How did you come to this understanding of
Yeah,
humanity?" But other times you can
right.
actually talk with them and then be like, "Oh, okay, if I engage with you on a human to human level, then like, yeah, you can build connection and make change that way."
I
It's a nice idea at least.
and maybe I'm getting too in the weeds with, like,
Mm.
work as opposed to, like, self and how to recharge, but
It's all connected.
yeah, I think when it basically comes down to it, and so I'm not, like, in the dumps all the time, and I am a lot of the time.
Sure.
Especially in my last job, there were times when I did feel hopeless, and it was really hard to, like, muster up the, "No, everything's fine."
Yeah.
But in a perfect world, when I'm feeling good, um, I feel like that's the easiest way for me to come to the table as just, "Hey, I'm from this state and you're from this state." That's something that we share. We might
Mhm.
not be sharing political party,
Yeah.
but let's just go down the line. That's something we share and just start from
Yeah.
there, right? Like, and then just, um and that
Then you could
takes
introduce them
time.
to Lola.
Yeah. I should just bring Lola to all these meetings, like,
Yeah, and be
"You
like,
wanna meet my
"Really?
dog?"
You wanna be my dog?" Just like,
I
because that
mean,
could be another thing you share, because it's really hard not to love
yeah.
Lola.
I mean, here's the thing, this is what I do, depending on, right, like, I do my research on these lawmakers, so it's not like I don't know
Yeah,
what, you know, what things I can say. I do pull out the veteran card quite a bit.
sure. That's
Like,
real.
yeah, and then we just, because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, here's the next level. We're both from Idaho. Yay, yay, yay. I'm gonna pull out this next level. I know that you love vets, like, you love
Mhm,
veterans. Guess what? I'm a veteran." So,
mhm.
then you just, like, go you just it sucks because it's, like, sometimes it's, like, piece by piece, like, let me just
Yeah,
piece by piece by piece by piece by piece, and my hope is that they're, like, you have all of a sudden, you're gonna have a conversation where, like, the doors cracked a little bit, and they're willing to hear what
that's
you
how
have
it
to
works,
say.
though. That's so huge. I mean, that's honestly, I think why these, old boys clubs where they go golfing together are so effective is because they get to spend time building relationship and connection, not about their political stuff,
Right.
and so they have more trust and, like, buy-in and stuff, so it's like, yeah, how can you piece by piece build things together? And
Yeah.
it
Here's
sucks
what
when
I
you're trying to do that with people that you're very angry at, but yeah.
Yeah. This is also why I know it is so imperative for me to figure out how to separate
Yes.
my life too, and how to find meaning outside of work.
Yeah.
Work is too much. I know I'm good at my job, you know you're good at your job. It also should not be all-consuming. For
Yeah,
me,
that's true.
it has been. For me,
Same.
I've used work as a qualifier of,
Yeah.
like, am I worthy enough? Like, if I work hard enough, like, this is what gives me value, which is, whatever it is. And I'm learning as I'm getting older that like for me, it hasn't been sustainable for a very long time. And I think one of the things that I've been trying to work on very much is understanding that I want a life outside of work. It is very hard to do when you have wrapped your life around work
Mhm.
and you work at home. But I think this all brings me to the point, like this is my long way of trying to say the same thing in a different way of it's so important to have community, and it's so important to try to find something and then make some kind of connection, and it is not easy. It is as simple as that sounds. It
Mm.
not simple. Maybe it doesn't sound simple. Maybe it sounds terrifying because it terrifies me all the time. I'm
Yeah.
like, on Monday, we had our Tree Fort holiday party, bath
Oh,
party, and I did make the effort to talk to people I already knew.
yeah.
I couldn't even stay past 8, so, um
I'm very proud of you for that because I I don't know. I love everyone who works in that space, but I also feel like, hi, I don't know if you know me. I'm so awkward, Erin.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing because I still am very awkward. Anyway, thank you for being proud of me. It did drain me to the point where I like, so that's what I mean, like, damn, that made me want to not, like, really be around anybody until recently, and so I'm,
Mhm.
like, a little bit nervous about tomorrow when whatever you're gonna feel. I can't
Mhm.
stop anybody from feeling what they feel when I say this. There is a women's march tomorrow. I don't believe I'm going to go right now.
Mhm.
My feeling is that, like, the best thing I can do is take care of myself, and right now I feel like that's just gonna be so depleting, and I'm kind of worried about what that would look like going into also my first week.
Yeah.
And as you and I had talked about, there is something to be said about, like, yeah, showing in numbers and being there. And it's not that I don't want to, but I don't know, maybe the most radical thing that I can do for myself is actually take time to have self care and understand what's going to energize me as opposed to what's going to deplete me.
I'm going to read you a thing that I think is important from Trisha Hersey, who wrote The Net Ministry. So she says rest is a form of resistance because it disrupts and pushes back against the expectations of capitalism and the history of white supremacy. So I'm just throwing that out there. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I know that, especially in Idaho, especially in Boise, being able to show up for a women's march can be really energizing because you get to connect with others in a community that can feel oppressively like you are isolated in. But I also know that it's, again, people are going to feel how they feel about this, and it's a nuanced and complicated situation. But the likelihood of the people in the state senate and the legislature and everything looking at the women's march and being like, I should, you know,
Mhm.
change my idea about our inhumane abortion ban or, you know, or literally XYZ healthcare access, right to even like right to travel while pregnant. Like there's so many things that it's just really hard to put that pressure of like, if I don't show up to this thing, then I'm failing my state to push this forward. That's a lot of responsibility to put on yourself and on one
Mm.
march. I don't think that it's inconsequential. I think it makes a huge difference. I think visibility is important, but I do think that if what the people, need to do is rest in order to keep fighting for another day, then they should rest. And if what they need
Yeah.
to do is to go connect and be visible and show up in numbers and rally, then they should friggin' do that because that's awesome and that's energizing and it's important. But to demonize any one person for like the messed up laws that they're passing is your fault because you didn't show up to this one thing. Like that to me is like a really slippery slope into like the
Yeah.
individual responsibility. So I'm going to just say that you are doing such important work, especially with your new role, where you're going to get to march on those Capitol steps all the time, right up those steps into their offices. So you'll have more opportunities to be visible. And I think I selfishly want you to take care of yourself so that you can do that important work, you know?
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I do want to say I understand that this is like also a privilege that I have, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to acknowledge that not everybody has this privilege.
Yeah. Which
But
privilege? The
I
resting
do.
privilege?
Yeah. And I'm in a privileged space to be able to do that. But
Well, it's not like your rights are not being actively trampled upon by this new
totally. Oh
administration.
man,
So,
yeah, for sure.
like,
I mean,
I mean, it's like I also want to be clear that you have a lot at stake as well. And
yeah,
so, like, you choosing to rest instead of showing up, for instance, at like a march is not because you don't have a lot at stake or you're not connected to the issues. It's just simply
right,
because you have to take care of yourself. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
yeah. And now I have to like qualify it too and be like, and Kat makes a very good point that I will be there for quite often.
Yeah, like it's literally your job
Yeah.
to go show up and I again I'm not gonna ever downplay the importance of a march. I led walkouts in high school. I led rallies. I was a burn it down and still am a burn it down kind of gal. Which now I feel bad saying because of the fires. God, climate change ruins everything. Talking about the system, not
Yeah.
people's houses. But yeah, I just think that any strategy is more effective when we recognize there's an abundance of people participating in it. And when you need to take a step back, others will take a step up and,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's why again, community is so
Community
important.
is so
We can hold
important.
each other up and we don't have to um slowly bear the load all on
Bear.
ourselves. So
Bear.
yeah,
Rawr.
bear it.
I in
Bear
kind
it.
of an interesting sort of reflection on all the wonderful things you were sharing and talking about in the power of like community and working together towards a common, I don't say enemy, but kind of an enemy, a common resistance. Something I was just sharing with a friend who moved to Oregon from Idaho was that it's like so nuanced here about like where to put your energy and who to push against because there is a Democratic majority in the House and the Senate in Oregon, and we've got a Democratic governor, and so there's other areas that people find to kind of push as like the entity that they need to push against and to do better. And I will say that I think Oregon passes progressive policies in a conservative funding structure, so it like has cool ideas and then doesn't set them up to be very well supported or rolled out very well, which sucks because it's like, here's all these cool experimental ideas.
Yeah.
Like, what if we lived in a world like this? And then it's like not supported with the appropriate way of funding it. And then it doesn't work very well. And then people are like, look at Oregon. That's why we can't have progressive policies. And anyways, what I was going to say is that that's where what you were talking about like building relationships with people to better understand the context and the nuance and the way things work is so freaking important and valuable. And I was going to share that because last week I got to go speak at a really active group of parent volunteers that work with our school district to do just like awesome sustainability projects for our students, especially our elementary students. It's pretty cool. It's a great advocacy group. They're incredibly like influential and well organized in the community. They also are very frustrated with the school district I work at. If anybody is a parent, they probably understand. So it's impossible to work in a school district and not feel that constant tension of, the way it's funded is never going to be in a way, not never. I can't say that. My job is to be hopelessly optimistic that things can get better. I work in climate change. I have to believe that. So it is currently not funded to be able to really support students where they're at, or to, like I said previously, be transparent and clear about the way decisions are made, which leaves people frustrated. And so I spent this time building relationships with this amazing group of passionate people who are really on the same team as me, right? Like I'm trying to
Mhm.
do great climate work. They're trying to do great climate work. We're both trying to make it happen in this school system that is not set up to be successful. I will say to no one person's great fault. And one of the things I tried to share with them, I really tried to like plead with them, at the end of our time together. They're like, "Do you want to say anything else?" And I was like, "The last thing I want to say is just remember that, we have this great relationship now. They were so appreciative of the work I do." And I was like, "Just remember that that school district that you are frustrated with, that you call like this entity, this amorphous beast that you're angry at, or like that government system, that office, that city councilor's office, that like university system, whatever you want to call it, where you just call it by the name of the organization and you isolate it as though it's like a single entity. It is made up of just people just like me who care a lot about what they're trying to do. And this work doesn't pay well enough and it's not easy enough to stick around very long if you truly don't care about it. So if you're deeply frustrated, it goes a long way to try and like build relationships with the individual people in the system that you're like trying to villainize, because we're all doing our best out here. If you can better understand like the context, you can kind of share that out with the community and help us get the word out, because nobody's got capacity to share that stuff. But anyways, all of that to say, it was a really beautiful spark generating conversation and moment, and like I got to build these really great deep connections that I think are gonna just lead to more powerful collective movements in a system where they're legitimately trying to do really good work and are not funded to do it well, if at all. So, anyways, that was kind of a tangent, but it's just kind of interesting seeing like how you have to like motivate and work to get volunteers and lobbyists okay and hopeful and optimistic to fight against or fight for, however you want to put it, something that's like black and white in terms of a binary opposition. So it's like, yeah, it's just kind of what it looks like to kind of be also in like a more kind of nuanced and complex environment where you're trying to find like the bad guy to fight. And then it's like, oh, actually, we have to like just do the deep work of organizing amongst humans. And that's hard.
Well, and it's also hard. Yeah, I think what you're pointing on is saying like it always feels like everything's a win-lose.
Yeah, that's what, thank you. I am not very articulate. Like,
No,
I'm not very concise. And so thank you for summarizing that, because I was like, how do I say this? And yeah, that mentality of we need to have a villain and we need to have like a win-lose scenario, and we need to have an us them. And when the system is sticky and complex and full of unique humans that are doing their best to try and move something forward, and you're actually technically on the same side of an issue, then trying to dissolve that us them would be radical and
yeah.
potentially really helpful. So
Yeah. And I think that's where I need every ounce of bit of energy that I can. Yeah, I mean, we're a super majority, and the super majority, that makes it really hard to do certain things when that majority wants to take away a lot of things.
mm.
And the interesting thing to me is that I also want to have the energy and take the time to understand why they think that way.
I know, right?
Like, why can I would love to have a conversation and but like I have to take myself out of the
Yeah.
win-lose because, yeah, like, I have walked into those offices being like, "This is my enemy," and it's like, we don't have to be enemies. Like, I think we just need to, like, sit down and talk about again, it's a simple way of saying it, right? Let's
hmm
start from here. What's our baseline? Building that relationship, but
I was just gonna say it takes two to tango in that though too. So like you can go
Mhm.
in being like, I'm not gonna give into this us them mentality. I'm going to namaste my way through this. And but they have, if they're also like there with a hard, you know,
Chip on their shoulder.
unwilling, yeah, an unwillingness to listen or see.
I would be doing my job really well if no one was able to see my frustration when I walk into a meeting.
Mm. That's so much masking.
Yeah, and so it is draining, so that's why,
Yeah.
we're here talking about these things because that's hard work,
Hmm.
um, and I
It's hard
think
but important work.
it is, but I think that's a lot of the work we're talking about, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it's also just very hard. It's very hard
Yeah.
to live in the world. I just watched a documentary about psychics.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
I believe they are all in New York. And then they all were in a room together, and someone was having a difficult time. In fact, one of them was
Hmm.
like, "Hey, can I read you?
Hmm.
Do you have a question?" Which was funny to me because I'm like, "Wait, you just asked if you could read them, but asking if" anyway, whatever. I think what they were reading is, "Hey, I can feel your energy, and I can feel like you're having a really hard time. Is that true? Like, where are we at here?"
Mm.
And what the beautiful and lovely thing was that they were each holding space for each other, but one in particular, said to him, like, "Earth is hard.
Oh,
Just
oh,
being here is really hard."
it
And
tugged at my
let's
heart.
just validate that because we are all just, like, bags of bones and guts and flesh. Like, and when it
Yeah,
comes down to it, we're just carbon all put into different ways, but, like, it's just hard. It's just hard to be here.
it's hard.
It and, then we talk about intersectionality
Yeah.
and putting even more other things on top of that of just, like,
Hmm.
just downright living here is hard. Earth is hard.
Yeah.
But they were trying to say, like, "We got it. Earth is hard, but we
Hmm.
also feel like you're here, and that's a gift, and the person that you're missing wants you to have that gift,
Yeah. I love that.
um, to move through it." So,
Not
anyway.
to not to take away from that, but something that came to mind when you said that they wanted to read each other was I know of that phrase from like RuPaul's Drag Race where they're
Oh,
like
yeah.
to read somebody is to just like
Read them to filth.
read them to filth. And so I was like, ooh, are these psychics just gonna like get into each other's auras and just
Roast
like
each other.
roast each other? It's like
Oh.
that'd be good. But I'm proud of us
You're
for showing up today, even
Me
though
too.
we've been in varying levels of moop.
Yeah, it
And
happened.
thanks for re-energizing my star a bit. I feel a lot better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
More
no,
like
existence is hard. But then also couch friends are so much joy and even my energy earlier, I was like in such a moop space and then you were like, "Should we talk about couch friends?" And immediately like my energy totally shifted and the gift of community and laughter and just like connection with each other and our kittens and our puppies and our whatever
our
trees
trash
and our
TV,
trash
like,
TV.
and our cheesy snacks and
And those like chocolatey, salty, like crunchy snacks. So many good snacks. Like there are these really beautiful moments that only happen if you can be present and like tap into them. But just just that instant energy shift is like that's what that gift of existence is hard, but there is something here and it's beautiful and
yeah.
um yeah, it's worth trying to
There's
find more
always
of.
if anything, uh, there's always glimmers. At my lowest
Glimmers.
at my lowest point,
Hmm.
which was pretty low, I always knew that there was something. There was always I'm like, "Okay, there's some glimmer," whether it's a glimmer of hope or you can even say, like, that one moment where I was, like, really tuned in,
Sometimes it's
and
the song that hits.
yeah,
Sometimes it's the
sometimes it's the way
pillow.
that your dog runs around and
Yeah,
gives you that face, and you're just like, "Oh my god, I can't live without you."
I
Like,
know.
"Never leave me, I love you so
Yeah.
much, I will
Or
die for you." No,
it just got so intense.
well,
Uh, yeah, for me, it's like the and when I'm in like some of my deep downs, anytime I have 3 cats and they're all different levels of very cuddly. So anytime one of them, especially Lilu, comes and just like love stomps my throat and just gives me so much. She's like, "No, Mom, you're gonna feel loved right now, and it's gonna be the best fuzzy, cuddly moment of warmth." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." I do remember before I had pets, I was just also like raw dogging life without any medication or understanding of what I was dealing with my like mental or physical health. And I didn't have pets, and I just was like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Fuzzy socks. That was my glimmer. I was like fuzzy socks and a nice robe. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, going on walks and finding a
Always just
surprise
thought to myself,
leaf.
like, it's got to get better than this.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
got like there's something better. I know there is. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, and I'm stuck. I think my thing now is like, now I'm in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's like that's what Jen, the therapist, has been telling me. She's like, "Hey, instead of leveling up or you feel good, so you feel like you need to add more onto your plate, how about you just enjoy it? How about you stay in this moment and like you just let it be?" Like my pattern is to be like, I feel good, so let me add
Yeah.
a bunch of different things onto it. Because like
Yep.
clearly I'm well enough to do it.
Yeah.
And then
I must be productive. I must improve myself. Yeah.
I must always be striving to do other things. I need to attain this next thing. And once that happens, I don't know. I like for some reason in my mind, I'm like, once that happens, everything will be fine.
Ezra Klein just did a podcast with Oliver Berkman about burnout and how that relationship with time and time management leads to burnout, because there's always something that we're trying to strive for before we feel like we're allowed to actually like rest. And anyways, I'll link all of these things. They're just great to listen to if you want to feel validated that like why is there always something else that I could be doing, and it's never enough. And we're trying to ask the radical question of like, what if this was enough? And what if this moment was exactly like you've done everything you needed to do, and it'll be okay and you can just enjoy it, you know? Surviving Service is independently created and produced by Kat Davis and Erin Riley. Join the community and spark new connections by following us on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at surviving_service, and reach out to share your own stories of service-driven work, all the things that make us laugh and cry, all the tips, tools, and tricks to get through by sending them to survivingservicepod@gmail.com. Together, we will go from surviving to thriving. Hang in there, we got this.